There is new reporting on the chaos and confusion in the final days of the Trump presidency that led to those classified documents being packed away for Mar-a-Lago. The New York Times reports Mr. Trump's haphazard handling of government documents, a chronic problem, contributed to the chaos he created after he refused to accept his loss in November 2020, unleashed a mob on Congress, and set the stage for his second impeachment. The Times goes on to report his unwillingness to let go of power, including refusing to return government documents collected while he was in office, has led to a potentially damaging and entirely avoidable legal battle that threatens to engulf the former president and some of his aides. Many questions about the mishandling of the documents lead to Mr. Trump, who often treated the presidency as a private business. But people in his orbit also highlight the role of Mark Meadows, who oversaw what there was of a presidential transition. Mr. Meadows assured White House staff members he would talk to Mr. Trump about securing records, including one stashed in the residence, according to two people with knowledge of the situation. Regardless of whether Mr. Meadows followed through on those promises, by early 2021, after Mr. Trump had left the White House, officials with the archives realized they were missing significant material. Let's bring one of the reporters on that piece, Justice Department reporter for the New York Times, Katie Benner. Katie, it's great to see you. So we saw Mark Meadows around January 6th on the day in that testimony before the Select Committee, showing his cowardice and unwillingness to stand up to President Trump, saying it's what he wants. What can I do? It appears he stepped aside here, too. Just a fascinating scene, if you can paint it a little bit for our viewers, of empty boxes effectively stacked up around the West Wing, waiting to be filled with documents bound for the National Archives. The White House counsel says those have to go to the National Archives. Mark Meadows says, yeah, I'll take care of it. Instead, they're filled and sent off to Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah, I think that one of the ways to look at the last days of the Trump administration is to see it as yet a continuation of Donald Trump's refusal to acknowledge that he was not going to be president come January 20th, 2021. He was in a deep denial, it seems, and unable to fulfill the final duties that he constitutionally and legally needed to oblige by, including sending his presidential records to the National Archives.
And so, Katie, do you get the sense that people around Donald Trump, he may not have wanted to know that they were legally bound to preserve those records and in fact send them to the National Archives, because the White House counsel said it again and again, according to your piece. Were there people telling Donald Trump, hey, these are supposed to go to the National Archives, or again, would nobody stand up to him and say that?
You know, I think that it would be difficult to say that Donald Trump didn't know what he was supposed to do. There were emails going out to every office of the White House telling them what their instructions were, and they were very clear. You saw Mike Pence boxing up all of his documents. He has a very robust national security operation in the vice president's office, and he made sure that every piece of paper was given over to the archives. Trump was a very different case. Keep in mind, on January 6th, there'd been a violent attack on the Capitol. His relationship with top lawyers in the White House had already deteriorated before that point, and after was just as fraught. And there was not a large number of people inside of the White House who really wanted to have difficult conversations with Donald Trump, except for Mark Meadows. He was the person who volunteered to do it. He was the person who said that he would. But it's unclear whether or not he actually was able to get through to the former president. Instead, that we know that both men were working on different projects, focused on different projects in the final days. Former President Trump was focused on pardons. He issued scores and scores of them. He fought with aides and advisors over whether to pardon Steve Bannon, his former campaign advisor, which he did do. And Mark Meadows himself was working hard around the clock to declassify documents related to the Russia investigation in the hopes of disseminating those to the public in the final days of the Trump administration.
Katie, there were Justice Department embeds, according to your reporting, who were actually in the White House, who were working alongside the administration to make sure that the protocols were followed. How senior were those embeds? How much authority would they have had with somebody like Mark Meadows? I imagine they never even would have spoken to Donald Trump directly, but were they the kind of people that could actually lay down the law when it came to this sort of thing?
Well, at the end of the day, first of all, it's very unusual for anybody to have to lay down the law with the president asking that person to comply with the law. So I don't think that that's a normal job in the course of the end of a presidency. And certainly the person to whom that duty would fall would be the chief of staff with the help of the White House legal counsel. As for the Justice Department, the most robust conversations they were having with the White House in the final days was haggling over what to declassify in this binder of documents related to the Russia investigation. Again, that investigation was an obsession of President Trump's throughout his presidency, and I don't believe it was until January 17th of 2021, 3 days before the inauguration of Joe Biden, that the White House and the FBI came to an agreement on some items that could be further declassified and disseminated. At that point, though, Mark Meadows decided not to disseminate the binder, in part because of privacy concerns of the information contained therein.
Reading your reporting, Katie, you get the sense that Donald Trump just thought he was taking souvenirs from being president of the United States, his latest job, that he wanted to bring some stuff home, be able to show it off. And there was a particular fixation on the self-described love letters between himself and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. What else did he want to make sure made it home to Mar-a-Lago?
You know, there were other letters that he thought of as his own. You know, the letter from Barack Obama at the beginning of Donald Trump's presidency. But to your point, he may have thought of these things as souvenirs, as personal items and personal effects. But he had many, many people telling him that was not the case. And as we've seen again and again in different venues, whether it's the January 6th committee hearings, whether it's court documents, just not believing your advisors and not listening to them is not a good enough defense for doing something wrong.
Such a fascinating piece. Justice Department reporter for the New York Times, Katie Benner. Katie, thanks so much for bringing your reporting to us this morning. We appreciate it.